In cartoons that we loved as kids, mental disorders, they often get turned into a joke, a shortcut to make someone scary, or an excuse for bad behaviour. In fact, the majority of kids' shows end up teaching us the wrong lesson because of it. But why does that happen? And which cartoons portray mental disorders the right way and which ones don't? Starting right off with someone that really isn't hard to diagnose. Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. If you've seen this hyperactive tiger bounce around the damn screen, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. The bloke can literally not sit still for more than 5 seconds.
Climb trees? That's what tigers do best. Only tigers don't climb trees, they bounce them.
Tigger is a textbook case of ADHD. He's got the hyperactivity, the poor impulse control, and he literally bounces everywhere. If you don't believe your reliable YouTube narrator, then how about the Canadian Medical Association? They did a study of the 100-acre wood gang back in 2000. And surprise, surprise, they diagnosed Tigger with ADHD. Yeah, that actually happened. Medical professionals took time out of their day to diagnose cartoon animals. I love it. Since we're sourcing from actual medical documents, it goes on to talk about how Tigger is a bloody terrible influence on poor little Roo. The lovable tiger is really affectionate, but he's also incredibly impulsive and has the habit of doing things with high risk and very little reward. Like the time he took some unknown substances, the first time he got to 100-acre wood. And look, I've got no issues with ADHD representation in the media, but recently it's been a bit stale and romanticised. If you have ADHD, you're shown to be fun-loving and happy-go-lucky, always trying to be happy and cheerful and maybe even kind of dumb. Tigger's no exception to this. I get it, it's simplified for kids, but that doesn't change the fact that it doesn't show the struggles that people with ADHD actually face. The constant feeling of being too much for everyone around you. I'm not saying I want Tigger to be super depressed in every other episode, but being the constant ball of energy of the group is a bit hard to stomach. And yeah, I know I'm definitely overanalyzing a kids' cartoon from the 60s, but come on. You subscribe to this channel for a reason. And if you haven't subscribed, well, then what the bloody hell is keeping you? Have you subbed? Good. Now, for the old subscribers, you know for a fact that I can't possibly go too far in a list of characters with mental disorders without talking about bloody Horrid Henry.
No! It's not fair!
Henry's known for acting out and being a proper brat. The horrid is literally in his name. And on the surface, yeah, he looks like just another badly behaved kid who needs a good talking to. But take a second to think about his home life and what he's been through, and you can see where the defiance comes from. Henry shows pretty much every symptom of oppositional defiant disorder. Kids with this problem show a pattern of angry behaviour and often have defiance towards authority figures. And ODD isn't something that just appears out of nowhere. It's often a response to environment, where a kid feels powerless and constantly criticised.
5 more minutes of that and the TV goes off, Henry.
Yes, Mum.
And stays off.
And well, check and bloody check on that front. Just take a look at how his parents treat him. They blame him for everything. They literally never believe him over his golden child of a younger brother. I mean, for f***'s sake. They call the kid Perfect Peter, while their catchphrase for their own son is, "Don't be Horrid Henry." His parents literally treat him like he's a stain on their lives. And I'm not exaggerating. But we're not done milking this cow just yet. Some fans have even theorised that Henry might have some depression tucked away underneath all of that bratty energy. And of course, by fans, I definitely don't mean me alone in the basement. And you know what? That actually makes sense. Kids don't always show depression the same way adults do. They usually have way more energy than the average office worker, so their depression comes out in anger, irritability, sometimes just feeling like the world straight up hates you.
But when I try to improve his image, see what happens. No Halloween! How unfair is that?
And that's not just fan speculation either. The show actually accidentally created a really interesting case study of what happens when a kid who's struggling doesn't get proper support. And it doesn't help that no one really tries to understand why Henry acts the way he does. Everyone just labels him as horrid and treats him like a shit stain on their boot for it. It kind of acts like a self-fulfilling prophecy. He's told he's bad, so he acts bad, which then confirms everyone's belief that he's bad. And if you think that's f***ed up, well, you have no idea how bad it can really get. The show, as much as it shows the effect of a shitty home on a struggling kid, it also plays the whole thing for laughs. Henry's clearly struggling with his parents' emotional abuse, and we're supposed to find it funny.
Henry!
It was Peter's fault! He sprayed me!
The show never explores the possibility that Henry's behaviour may actually be a cry for help, and they never show his parents trying to understand him or change their approach. We're just supposed to laugh at the horrid kid because that's his entire identity. And that's really dangerous, isn't it? Because there are real kids out there who act just like Henry, and there are real reasons behind that behaviour. But if all we do is label them as bad kids and punish them without even trying to understand what's going on underneath, we're not helping anyone. Henry needed therapy. His whole family needed therapy. Bloody hell, the whole crew involved in making this show probably needs therapy. I mean, so do I probably. But instead, we just got 4 seasons of look at the terrible child being terrible. Brilliant show writing, that. But if you don't think that's dark, then hold your therapy dogs, because we're just getting started. Let's talk about Courage, the ironically named cowardly dog. The brave hound is the star of a show filled with monsters, ghouls, and failing marriages. So, if you've watched this show, you know that Courage is absolutely terrified of everything. He's been startled by shadows, voices, and even himself on some occasions. It's easy to write this off as the poor mutt just being a scaredy cat. After all, he's literally named the Cowardly Dog. But what if I told you that his fear of literally anything and everything comes from a pretty sad backstory that not a lot of you know?
Let us go!
Don't take me from my baby!
To us!
Yeah, that's right. Courage wasn't just abandoned as a pup like the intro says. He actually had to watch his parents being kidnapped right in front of him as a baby. He was then abandoned and left to die before Muriel found him. That's childhood trauma, mate. Severe, life-altering childhood trauma. Once you know that his so-called cowardly behaviour starts to make a whole lot of bloody sense. Like, yeah, he's scared of everything, sure, but that's just hypervigilance. It happened once. Who's to say that it won't happen again, right? That's a telltale symptom of PTSD. The screaming at every little thing. That's another PTSD symptom. His intense attachment to Muriel. That's fear of losing another caregiver, which is completely understandable given his history. I mean, he'd do anything to make sure that she is safe and sound.
Ah, that's much better.
Experts who've analysed the show have suggested Courage likely has generalised anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and PTSD all rolled into one. And you don't really have to be a medical genius to see it. He has so many anxiety symptoms, it's hard not to notice it. The shaking, the screaming, the running away. Okay, maybe some of that is because of the horrific abominations that seem to find their way to the middle of nowhere every other afternoon. But a majority of them are just signs of a deeply troubled dog. So, what exactly does this show do wrong, you ask? Playing everything off as a joke at the end of the day. Despite being absolutely terrified, he still faces down monsters, aliens, and all sorts of supernatural threats to save Muriel. And while that is courageous, it's not the best lesson to show kids. It's encouraging to see him push past his weakness and fight off the big bads, but it's never been that easy for people truly suffering with these issues. The show never truly addresses the root cause of Courage's issues. There's no way for a dog to get therapy, obviously, especially when he lives with a hillbilly couple in the middle of nowhere. but that means that he's cursed to continue living in a constant state of anxiety. And everyone around him either doesn't notice or just doesn't care. Muriel is sweet to him, but she's completely oblivious to the severity of his distress. And Eustace, that absolute bastard, actively torments Courage, which would only make his anxiety worse. Imagine having PTSD and living with someone who constantly tries to scare you.
It's up to Courage to save his new home!
Stupid dog! You made me look bad!
There's also a popular theory that all the monsters Courage sees might be hallucinations or exaggerated perceptions of normal things, which would add another layer of mental health issues to the mix. His trauma has made him see threats everywhere, even when there might not be any. So what you've got here is a character with severe, untreated anxiety and PTSD, living in an isolated farmhouse with an oblivious elderly woman and an abusive elderly man, constantly experiencing what his traumatized brain perceives as life-threatening situations. That sounds like the plot of a dark horror story, but it's instead the story of a dog fighting monsters to save his family. What saves the series from being as bad as the rest is they do show signs that Courage is actively suffering from his anxiety. Like the time he was scared so bloody shitless by Muriel turning into a monster that he had a stroke. Courage needed proper mental health care, a safe and stable environment, and probably to not live in the middle of nowhere, where supernatural shit happens every other day. At least the show proves that you can be anxious as hell and still be brave. That is something, I suppose. But not all shows handle mental disorders with as much care, and sometimes it bloody gets them in trouble. Like in the case of SpongeBob SquarePants.
What's his name? What's his name? I got nothing on a name. Come on, baby, what's the name? We threw out his name!
Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that SpongeBob is a classic case of ADHD. He shows a lot of signs, with one of the most glaring ones being his intense hyperfocus on things he loves, like jellyfishing or his job, or Squidward.
La 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 la.
That poor guy. Because of his little quirks, he struggles with emotional regulation and bounces between activities constantly. Does that sound familiar? But unlike our bouncy tiger, who's pretty clearly meant to represent hyperactivity, SpongeBob's a bit more complicated. The show never explicitly says that he has ADHD, but the internet has been debating it for years. And then in 2011, a study came out claiming that watching SpongeBob could cause attention problems in children.
And finally, he lives in a pineapple under the sea, but tonight he is the center of a cartoon controversy.
Yeah, you heard that right. Researchers at the University of Virginia claim that just 9 minutes of watching SpongeBob could impair executive function in 4-year-olds. The media went absolutely mental, and suddenly SpongeBob was being blamed for ruining children's attention spans. This was, of course, before the time of bloody Cocomelon and other brain rot shows that are pretty much taunting babies these days, but back then it was a big deal. But if I had to put on my responsible adult hat for a second, I'd say that that study was complete bollocks. There were a lot of problems with how it was handled, and it barely got enough data to show that the same thing happens to every kid that grew up with SpongeBob. I mean, look at me. I grew up with the show and I turned out all right. Okay, bad example. Anyways, the damage was done. SpongeBob was now the poster child for shows that make your kids stupid. But how's SpongeBob as a character portrayed? If we're assuming he really does have ADHD, then it gets a bit complicated.
One crying Johnny coming up. First bun, then patty, followed by ketchup, mustard, pickles, extra onions, lettuce, cheese, tomatoes, and bun, in that order. One crying Johnny up.
Whatever.
On one hand, SpongeBob is shown as incredibly competent at his job. When he's making Krabby Patties, he's genuinely good at what he does. This actually reflects a real aspect of ADHD, which is hyper-focusing on things that you're passionate about. So that's not terrible. On the other hand, SpongeBob is constantly getting into trouble because of his impulsive behaviour, and this leads him to being seen as kind of immature and childish. His hyperactivity is shown as something that makes him a nuisance to everyone that he interacts with.
Gee, Patrick, do you think Squidward was trying to tell us something?
Yes, I was! You call yourselves good neighbors? You're the worst neighbors ever! You don't deserve to wear those fezes!
Gee,
The show also doesn't give him any coping mechanisms or support. He just is this way. And everyone around him either loves him or wants to drive a nail through their heads. Don't get me wrong though, SpongeBob is entertaining as hell. But if you're a kid with ADHD watching this, the message you're getting is either you're annoying and everyone hates you, or you're too stupid to function properly. It's not exactly inspiring, is it? And what makes it so much worse is the fact that SpongeBob is more or less supposed to be a full-grown man. Sponge? Fish? Anyways, this would make way more sense if he was a kid or something. Kind of like Angelica Pickles from Rugrats. Except, instead of having ADHD, she's a 3-year-old with every single trait of narcissistic personality disorder. And somehow, the show thinks this is hilarious. There probably aren't enough words to describe the tyrant.
Damn!
Angelica is manipulative, self-centered, lacks empathy, has a sense of importance so freaking massive that she's probably going to grow up with plans of ruling the world. The little shit constantly exploits others for her own gain and needs constant attention and admiration. She literally torments babies for fun and feels no remorse about it. Sound like anyone with NPD? Because that's textbook narcissism right there. And keep in mind, Angelica is 3 bloody years old, and the show is already cementing in viewers' minds that she's just a terrible person who will grow up to be a terrible adult. But children aren't born narcissists.
Give me that bottle. No, it's mine. I said give it. Give me that. Give me that bottle!
Narcissistic traits in young children are actually pretty normal. They're still developing empathy and learning that other people have feelings. What matters is how parents respond to those behaviours and teach their kids to be better.
He's out of line, but he's right.
And how do Angelica's parents respond? They just don't. They're barely in the show. And when they are, they're either completely oblivious to Angelica's behaviour or they actively enable it by spoiling her rotten. Her mum is a workaholic who's never around, and her dad is a pushover who gives Angelica everything she wants.
Angelica's lawyer has faxed me a list of demands. Shall I read them?
Oh, sure. I mean, how bad can they be?
Official present-giving days to occur whenever Angelica wants. 3, a Mr. X exploding smash-up doll. 4, a Commander Bill Desert Storm.
So, Rugrats, just like Horrid Henry, is another case of getting ruined by their parents' behaviour. Except, instead of treating their kid like they might as well be shit in a toilet bowl...
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Angelica's parents are a proper example of what happens when a kid doesn't get proper guidance and boundaries. And the show never explores this. She's just the bratty antagonist...
I'll always be a villain.
...who exists to cause problems. And that's it.
Dumb dog, why'd you have to go?
And once again, we're teaching kids that people with narcissistic traits are just bad people who can't change. We're not showing that narcissism often develops as a defense mechanism or a result of terrible parenting. The few times the show does show Angelica being vulnerable or sad, she immediately goes back to being horrible in the next scene. As far as I'm concerned, it's lazy, and it's probably left a bad taste in both kids and parents. Angelica needed parents who actually gave a shit about raising her properly. Instead, she got 2 people who were too busy or too spineless to teach her basic empathy. Bloody f***ing brilliant. Honestly, stuff like this proves what I've been saying for ages. Bad parents raise terrible kids. I should probably make a video about that sometime soon, shouldn't I? Well, guess what? That video is already made and ready for you to click. Here, click it, click it, click it, click it. Cheerio!